The wind howled across the frozen world of Arendor, carrying flakes of blue snow that glowed faintly in the dark. The sky was heavy with storm clouds, and flashes of orange light broke the night as distant explosions echoed through the mountains. In the middle of that frozen wasteland, a small figure walked slowly, her steps weak and trembling. Lyra, a woman of the Valari race, held a small child close to her chest, wrapped in a silver cloth. The baby gave a soft cry, his breath turning to mist in the cold air. Lyra pressed her lips to his forehead. "Shh! Don't cry, my little star," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Mama's here." Her people had fallen. The once beautiful cities of the Valari were nothing but ice and ruins now. The sky had burned for weeks. No help had come. The invaders, machines from the black ships, had destroyed everything. Now only silence and snow remained. Lyra found a small cave carved into the side of a frozen hill. Inside it was dark and cold, but at least it gave a little shelter from the wind. She sat down holding the child close, and for a long moment she said nothing. Only the storm spoke, screaming outside like a dying beast. Her body was weak. The wound on her side burned like fire, but she ignored it. Her only thought was the child, the last piece of her people. His name was Kael. Lyra took a deep breath and began to sing. It was an old Valari lullaby, soft and gentle, a song mothers sang when the sky was kind and the stars were bright. Her voice trembled but did not break. The melody filled the cave, and the walls began to glow faintly blue, responding to the power of her song. The snow outside slowed. The storm seemed to listen. Her song told of love and protection, of a safe place among the stars where no pain could reach. As she sang, Kael's breathing slowed, and he looked up at her with eyes that shone faintly silver, the mark of his kind. Lyra smiled weakly. "Sleep, my light. The stars will guide you." But as she sang the final line, her voice broke. Tears froze on her cheeks. She could feel her body growing colder. She knew she didn't have much time left. Outside, the sound of distant engines grew louder, deep, rumbling, unnatural. A shadow moved through the storm. Lyra froze, clutching the child tighter. Through the cave opening, she saw lights moving across the snow. For a moment, she thought it might be the machines again, the same ones that had burned her village. She whispered the last verse of her song, her voice now no more than a breath. Then she saw it. Footprints. Heavy ones. Human ones. Lyra's eyes widened. No human had ever come to Arendor before. Her people had only heard stories. Tales of humans who fought wars among the stars, who built machines that could move planets. Humans were dangerous, powerful, and distant. The footsteps grew closer. Lyra's heart raced. Should she hide, run? She had no strength left to do either. She pressed Kael against her chest and covered him with her cloak. Her eyes darted toward the mouth of the cave. A figure appeared, half buried in the storm. Tall, armored, the face hidden behind a black helmet. He moved slowly as if hurt. He stopped when he saw her. The wind roared between them. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then the man took a shaky step forward and removed his helmet. He was human. His face was pale, rough, with a scar along his cheek. His eyes tired, but full of something Lyra didn't expect, kindness. He looked at her, then at the child. "You're not supposed to be here," he said softly, his voice rough from the cold. Lyra tried to speak but coughed, blood touching her lips. "Please, my child." The man dropped to one knee, his breath forming clouds. He saw the wound on her side and the pale color of her skin. "You're dying," he whispered. She nodded slowly. "Take him, Kael. He is all that remains." The man looked at the baby, then back at her. His name was Captain Ethan Cole, a soldier from a broken war far away. His ship had crashed only hours ago. He had no orders now, no army, no reason to fight. But as he looked at the dying mother and the glowing child, something deep inside him stirred. Lyra reached out a trembling hand and touched his chest. "Promise me, you will keep him safe. He must live, or all will be lost." Ethan hesitated. He had seen death before. He had followed orders without question. But this moment felt different. "I promise," he said quietly. Lyra smiled weakly. "Then I can rest." Her eyes closed. The glow from her skin faded, leaving only the sound of the storm. Ethan held the child gently. The boy's tiny hand reached for his armor. The faint hum of the lullaby still echoed through the cave. Soft and haunting. Outside, the storm began to calm. But far away, deep under the snow, something else began to awaken. Mechanical eyes flickering to life, hearing the same lullaby. Ethan looked out into the storm, unaware that the song had not only saved a life, it had called something to him. And in the silence of Arendor's endless snow, the human's footsteps had just changed everything forever. The storm had finally quieted, but the silence that followed felt heavy, almost alive. Ethan Cole stood at the mouth of the cave, staring into the endless white. His breath fogged the air inside his cracked helmet, and his heart still raced from what he had just seen. A dying alien mother, a glowing child, and a lullaby that still echoed in his mind like a ghost. He looked down at the small bundle in his arms. The child slept peaceful, his silver eyes closed, his skin giving off a faint blue light that warmed Ethan's frozen gloves. He had fought in many wars, seen too many children die, too many worlds burn, but this one felt different. There was something in that song that made his chest ache, something human, something familiar. Ethan took a deep breath and turned back toward the cave. Lyra's body lay still under a thin layer of blue snow. For a moment he just stood there, unsure what to do. Then he bent down and used his hands to cover her gently, the way soldiers buried their dead when there were no flags or graves. "Rest now," he whispered. "I'll keep my promise." He picked up the child again and looked toward the horizon. His ship had crashed somewhere to the east near the frozen ridges. If he could reach it, maybe he could find shelter, or a way to call for help. But the wind was rising again, and the cold could kill both of them before morning. Ethan started walking. Each step sank deep into the soft snow. The planet was quiet except for the crunch of his boots. The sky was a swirl of gray and blue, and lightning flickered somewhere far off. As he moved, he tried to talk to the child, just to keep himself awake. "You're lucky, kid. Most soldiers don't get to carry something this small and loud," he said with a weak smile. "Guess I'm your babysitter now." The baby stirred slightly, making a soft humming sound. For a moment, Ethan froze. It wasn't a normal sound. It was the same melody, the lullaby, but this time it came from the child himself. The snow around them began to shimmer faintly, reacting to the sound. Ethan's suit sensors blinked red and blue. "What the hell?" he muttered, checking his wrist device. It showed strange energy waves coming from the baby, waves that pulsed with rhythm like music. He stopped walking and listened. The song wasn't just sound. It was language. The snow, the air, even the ground seemed to respond. When the song ended, a light appeared in the distance, faint but steady. Ethan tightened his grip on his rifle and slowly walked toward it. What he found made his heart skip. Half buried under ice and snow was a wrecked alien transport, large and curved like a silver wing. The hull was cracked open, glowing from inside with dim blue light. The door was frozen, but the moment Ethan stepped closer, the baby hummed again. The door slid open with a soft hiss, as if the ship knew him. Inside, the air was warmer. The walls shimmered with soft light, and symbols glowed on the panels. Ethan stepped in carefully, every muscle tense. The child seemed calm now, watching him with glowing eyes. He found a chair and sat down, wrapping the baby in part of his torn jacket. Then he noticed something strange. On one of the walls, alien words flickered to life. His helmet translated them automatically. "The singer's child must live." Ethan stared at the message. "Singer?" he whispered. "You mean your mother?" The screen flickered again. "The song will awaken the heart of Arendor." Before he could react, the floor beneath him rumbled. The ship groaned as if something massive was moving deep below. Ethan grabbed the baby and backed away. Through a small window, he saw the snow shifting, huge shapes under the ice, like sleeping giants turning in their beds. And then he saw the red lights. Dozens of glowing eyes moved through the storm, closing in on the wreck. They were machines, metal creatures walking on four legs, scanning the ground with red beams. Their shapes were sharp, insect-like, and silent. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He turned off his helmet light and crouched low. His heart pounded. "Not good," he whispered. The baby made a soft noise. Ethan quickly covered his mouth. The machine stopped moving. One turned its head toward the ship. Its red beam swept over the opening. Ethan held his breath. The beam passed by and moved on. He waited a full minute before daring to breathe again. When he looked back at the baby, he saw the glow in Kyle's eyes flicker brighter. It wasn't fear. It was something else. Awareness. The child reached out and touched Ethan's armor. For a second, the metal warmed. The baby smiled. "What are you, kid?" Ethan whispered. The child only blinked, his eyes reflecting the dim light of the alien ship. Outside, the red lights were moving away but not retreating. They were circling, waiting. Ethan knew one thing for sure now. He wasn't supposed to be here, but maybe, just maybe, he was meant to be here. As the storm thickened once more, he tightened his grip on the sleeping child and stared out into the snow. Somewhere out there, someone or something was searching for them, and the human who shouldn't have been there was about to find out why this planet sang to the stars. The storm outside had grown silent again. But it wasn't peace, it was the kind of silence that waited before something terrible. Inside the wrecked alien transport, Ethan Cole sat with the glowing child in his arms. The blue light from the walls painted his tired face in soft color. He hadn't slept in almost 2 days. His suit's energy core was nearly empty, and his weapons were freezing. Still, every time he looked at the baby, Kale, that was the name the mother had whispered. Something inside him refused to give up. The baby was strange, beautiful, dangerous, and somehow alive in a way no human child could be. Ethan sat the boy down gently and searched the ship for anything useful. Most of the controls were broken, but one room at the back still had power. Inside, there was a large crystal console with glowing lines running through it. When Ethan came close, his wrist scanner went wild, unreadable signals, energy far beyond human tech. Then Kale began to hum again. It wasn't a cry or random sound. It was a tune, the same lullaby his mother had sung in the snow. The crystal console responded instantly, flashing in rhythm with the boy's soft song. Symbols appeared on the walls. Ethan couldn't read them, but his helmet's translator worked slowly, one line at a time. The singer's child carries the light of Arendor. When the stars fade, the light shall awaken the world. Ethan stepped back. "Awaken the world?" he muttered. "You've got to be kidding me." Kale stopped humming and looked up at him, blinking with those silver eyes. They didn't look like a baby's eyes anymore. They looked knowing, as if he understood everything Ethan said. "You can't understand me, can you?" Ethan asked. The baby tilted his head. Then, to Ethan's shock, a few soft words came out in broken human speech. "The man. Safe." Ethan froze. His throat went dry. Did you just talk?" The baby smiled faintly, as if pleased by his reaction. Before Ethan could say another word, the ship trembled. A deep sound rolled through the ground, like thunder, but from below. He ran to the window slit and looked outside. The snow was moving, it wasn't wind. The white plains were cracking open, long dark lines spreading in every direction. Under the ice, blue light pulsed slowly, like a sleeping heart beating. Ethan's stomach tightened. "What is happening?" The ship's console began to speak in a soft female voice. "Heart of Arendor stirring. Source identified, the child." Ethan turned toward Kale. The boy's glow had become brighter, spreading through the room. Ethan could barely look at him now. The light was too strong, too alive. "Kale, stop whatever you're doing," he shouted, but the child didn't stop. His small hands were lifted toward the air, and around him dust and snow began to float. The air buzzed with power. The crystal panels on the walls cracked, unable to contain the surge. Then, silence again. The glow faded. Kale looked exhausted, his light dimming. Ethan rushed to him, afraid the boy might collapse. But Kale just smiled weakly and whispered, "Mama's song helps." Ethan's heart clenched. The baby had done something big. He looked outside again. The cracks in the ice had stopped moving, but faint blue light still glowed in them like rivers under the snow. Before he could think more, a sharp sound cut through the air. A ping. Metal, hitting metal. He ducked just as a red beam of energy sliced through the wall beside him. Damn it, they found us. Through the gap, he saw them. 3 metal hunters, their red eyes burning through the storm. They had tracked the energy signal. Ethan grabbed his rifle and fired a burst. The bullet sparked against the first machine's armor, barely leaving a mark. He cursed and rolled behind a console as another beam shot past his head. The baby began to cry, soft at first, then louder. But as he cried, the sound changed into a humming note, higher and stronger. The room started to glow again. Ethan covered his eyes as light burst from Kale's tiny body, pure white this time. The machines froze mid-step. The red in their eyes flickered, turned orange, then blue. For a moment the hunters stood still as if confused. Then slowly they turned away from the ship and walked back into the storm. Ethan couldn't believe it. The child had stopped them. Not with weapons, but with sound, music, light, emotion. Something deeper than machines could understand. When the glow faded, Kale was sleeping again, breathing softly. Ethan knelt beside him, shaking his head. "Kid, you just saved us both. I don't know how, but thank you." He looked out the window one last time. The snow was calm again, but the cracks beneath it still glowed faintly. The whole planet seemed to be awake, like it was listening. Ethan whispered to himself, "What are you, little one?" The ship's voice answered softly, almost like a whisper in his ear. "He is the heart of this world. And now so are you." Ethan's hands went cold. He looked at the sleeping child in his arms, realizing something terrifying. This wasn't just about survival anymore. The song that had begun in the snow was calling something ancient, something that would soon change every world, human or alien. And Ethan Cole, a lost soldier on a frozen planet, was now part of that song. The snowstorm returned with a roar, shaking the wrecked transport like a drum. The wind screamed through the cracks in the metal walls, carrying the voices of the dead and the whispers of the machines. Ethan Cole stood at the narrow window, his rifle in hand, eyes scanning the white horizon. For hours, nothing moved except the snow. But he knew better. Silence never meant safety. Beside him, the alien child Kale slept in a metal cradle Ethan had built from broken panels. The soft blue light from the boy's skin pulsed gently like a heartbeat. Each time Ethan looked at it, a strange calm filled him. Then the fear came back stronger. That same light had scared off the machines earlier. It had also woken something deep beneath the ice. He didn't understand any of it. He rubbed his tired eyes and whispered, "What are you, kid? A weapon? A miracle?" Kyle stirred in his sleep and made a small sound, half hum, half sigh. The air shimmered faintly, reacting to him. Ethan backed away. He remembered how the ground had cracked, how the hunters had stopped at the sound of the boy's song. The power inside this child wasn't just strange, it was alive. He checked his armor's scanner again. The screen flickered, showing faint red dots in the distance. They were moving, slow, careful, hunting. "Yeah," Ethan muttered, loading his weapon. "They're not done with us yet." He turned to the baby. "Stay quiet, okay? I'll handle this." He stepped out into the storm. The cold hit him like knives. The world outside was a sea of white, endless and blinding. His boots sank deep into the soft snow. The air was heavy with electricity. He could feel it on his tongue. Somewhere far off, metal scraped against metal. Then he saw them. 3 red lights moving through the mist, then 6, then 10. The machines were spreading out, searching for his heat signature. Their shapes were monstrous. Spider-like frames, long legs, glowing red cores at their centers. The hunters of Arendor. Ethan crouched behind an ice ridge and watched. His pulse quickened. He could try to run, but he'd never make it far with the child. He needed to protect the ship, protect Kyle. He took a deep breath, aimed his rifle, and fired. The shot hit one of the hunters dead in its core. It staggered, screamed in a metallic roar, and fell sideways into the snow. The others turned instantly, their red eyes flashing. "Here we go," he muttered. Energy beams cut through the storm, slicing the ground beside him. He rolled, fired again, ducked behind a mound. His rifle overheated fast. His armor's warning lights blinked red. Then he heard it, soft and distant at first. A hum, Kale's hum. The air began to change. The snowflakes stopped falling mid-air. The wind slowed, almost like time itself had paused. The storm quieted to a whisper. The machines hesitated. Their red eyes flickered. Ethan peeked over the ice ridge and saw Kale standing in the doorway of the wrecked ship, glowing like a small blue sun. The child wasn't crying this time. He was singing, slow and pure, his little voice carrying across the storm. Ethan's chest tightened. He had never heard anything so beautiful or terrifying. The machines started to shake. Their red cores pulsed faster, as if in panic. Then one by one they turned toward the boy and dropped to their knees, metal limbs digging into the snow. Ethan lowered his gun, staring in disbelief. The lullaby was controlling them, but then the ground rumbled again, louder this time. The ice cracked in a long line across the plain. Something massive was rising beneath them. Kyle stopped singing. The light dimmed. Ethan ran toward him, shouting over the storm. "Kale, inside, now!" Before he could reach him, the ground exploded. A giant mechanical form burst through the snow, a hunter far larger than the rest. Its body was like a tower of black steel, its core glowing deep crimson. The smaller hunters scattered in fear. Ethan raised his rifle, but he knew it was useless. The giant's head turned toward Kale, and its voice echoed like thunder. "The child of the singer belongs to the Dominion." Ethan froze. He had heard that name before. The Dominion. His old army. The same fleet that had destroyed countless worlds, including this one. The truth hit him like a blade. The machines weren't alien, they were human-built. His breath caught. "No, we did this." The giant raised one arm, energy building at its core. Ethan threw himself forward, grabbing Kale and diving into the snow as a beam tore through the ship behind them, turning it into molten glass. He rolled, holding the child close. Kale's eyes snapped open, glowing brighter than ever. He looked straight at the massive machine and whispered a single word. "Stop." The light exploded outward. Everything went white. The giant froze mid-motion, its body shaking violently. Then, with a sound like breaking glass, it shattered, pieces flying in every direction, glowing red as they fell. The storm screamed around them. When the light faded, Ethan looked at Kyle, his face pale with shock. "Kid, you just took down a war machine." Kale's light dimmed, and he slumped weakly in Ethan's arms, whispering, "Mama said, sing for life." Ethan held him tighter, staring at the ruins of the great hunter. The storm howled again, carrying echoes of the word Dominion. He knew now that his past, the army he once served, had brought this destruction. And somewhere above the clouds, he could almost hear their ships coming back to finish the job. The storm had passed, but the sky above Arendor was no longer empty. High in the distance, dark shapes floated like shadows, massive warships cutting through the clouds. The Dominion fleet had arrived. Ethan Cole stood at the edge of a frozen ridge, holding the child Kale close to his chest. The boy was asleep again, glowing faintly, his breath soft and warm against Ethan's armor. The battlefield below was silent. The shattered remains of the great hunter still smoked, melting the snow around it. Ethan's mind was racing. The machines that had hunted Kale were human-built. His own people had turned this world into ice. He stared up at the sky, his jaw tight. His communicator crackled to life for the first time in days. "Captain Cole, this is Admiral Rourke. You're alive." The voice was deep, cold, and filled with authority. The voice of a man Ethan once trusted. Ethan froze, eyes narrowing. "Rourke, I thought the fleet left orbit weeks ago." "We did, but we tracked your distress beacon. We also detected something else, a signal we've never seen before. You have something with you, Captain, something powerful." Ethan looked down at Kale. "He's just a child." There was silence for a moment. Then the Admiral's tone changed, becoming sharper. "That child isn't one of us. You know what the Volari are, Cole, our enemy. That thing in your arms is the reason this planet died." Ethan clenched his fists. "No, the Dominion did this. You turned this world into a graveyard." "Careful, soldier," Rourke said, his voice calm but dangerous. "You're speaking to your superior officer." "I'm speaking to a murderer," Ethan snapped. A long pause. Then the Admiral sighed. "Bring the child to the landing point, Captain. You'll be rescued, debriefed, and properly rewarded. Disobey, and you'll be marked as a traitor to humanity." The communicator went silent. Ethan stared at the device, breathing hard. His hands shook. "Traitor," he whispered bitterly. "Guess that's what I am now." Kale stirred in his arms. His small hand brushed Ethan's chest plate, and the metal warmed instantly like sunlight on snow. The child looked up with sleepy eyes and said softly, "Bad men. Coming." Ethan's blood ran cold. He looked up and saw small black shapes breaking off from the fleet above. Dropships. They were coming fast. He turned and ran. The wind whipped at his face as he raced through the snowfields, his boots crunching loudly in the silence. Kale clung to him, humming quietly. The same tune again, the one his mother had sung. The snow began to glow faintly around them, responding to the melody. Behind him, the sky exploded with light. The first dropship landed, throwing up clouds of ice. Dominion soldiers poured out, armored and armed. Captain Ethan Cole, a voice shouted through the loudspeaker. You are ordered to surrender the Valari child immediately. Ethan didn't stop running. Energy blasts sliced through the snow, narrowly missing him. He ducked behind a ridge, breathing hard, his rifle shaking in his hands. He could see them, his own comrades searching for him like hunters chasing prey. He whispered to Cale, I can't let them take you. They'll use you. They'll drain you. Cale's glowing eyes blinked. Why humans hurt? Ethan's throat tightened. Because they're afraid of what they don't understand. He peeked over the ridge. The soldiers were spreading out. One of them, his old squad mate, Sergeant Vale, was leading the group. Vale raised his visor and called out, Ethan, don't make this harder. Hand over the alien and we all go home. Ethan shouted back, You don't understand what he is, Vale. He's not a weapon, he's a child. Vale shook his head. That child destroyed a human colony 2 months ago with a single song. You were there. You saw what their kind did. Ethan froze. The image flashed in his mind. An entire base turned to glass, the air filled with song and fire. He had seen it, yes, but now he knew it wasn't hate. It was defense. The Valari had been singing to survive. He took a deep breath. Then maybe we deserved it, he said quietly. Vale hesitated. What? Ethan stood tall. I'm done killing for lies. Before Vale could reply, Cale began to hum again. The air around them shimmered, snowflakes turning to sparks of blue light. Vale's rifle jammed, the circuits melting in his hands. Soldiers shouted as their visors went black. Ethan grabbed Cale and ran again, disappearing into the storm. Behind him, his old comrades struggled in confusion as their weapons failed one by one. High above, Admiral Rourke watched from his command ship. He stared at the glowing energy spreading across the white planet, his expression unreadable. So the singer's child truly exists, he muttered. Then we cannot allow him to live. He turned to his officers. Prepare orbital strike. If Cole protects the alien, he dies with it. Back on the surface, Ethan and Cale reached the ruins of an old Valari temple, half buried under the snow. Ethan placed the child down and knelt beside him, trying to catch his breath. He looked into the boy's glowing eyes and whispered, They're coming for us, Cale. And this time, they'll destroy the whole planet. Cale's light flickered and a faint echo filled the air. A whisper not from him, but from the ancient walls themselves. The song must rise again. Ethan turned slowly. Symbols carved into the ice began to glow with the same blue light as Kyle's skin. He stood, staring in awe. The temple walls trembled. The floor cracked open, revealing a deep pit glowing from within. Ethan felt the vibration through his boots. He knew the fight wasn't over. It was only beginning. He looked down at Cale and said softly, Then we'll make the song rise. Above them, the Dominion fleet charged its cannons. Below them, the planet of Arendor began to wake. The ground beneath Ethan Cole's boots trembled like a heartbeat. The sound wasn't thunder, it was something older, deeper, something alive. The ancient Valari temple glowed with blue veins of light that spread across the snow like rivers of fire. The frozen air vibrated softly, humming with Cale's faint lullaby. The child stood at the center of the ruins, eyes shining brighter than ever before. The song that came from his lips was not just a melody anymore, it was a language. Each note seemed to awaken the walls, the sky, and even the wind itself. Ethan stood in awe, clutching his rifle, though he knew it meant nothing here. His breath fogged in the freezing air, and his mind raced between fear and wonder. Kyle, he whispered. What are you doing? The boy didn't answer. His gaze was fixed on the glowing pit that had opened beneath the temple. From it came a soft pulse, blue light breathing in rhythm with the song. Ethan felt his knees weaken. It's alive, he said under his breath. The communicator on his wrist crackled again, breaking the trance. Captain Cole, this is Admiral Rourke. We've locked onto your position. You have 30 seconds to surrender. Ethan gritted his teeth. You don't understand what's happening here, Admiral. You need to pull your ships back. Pull back? Rourke's voice was cold and steady. You've gone soft, Cole. That alien child is a weapon. We will finish what you couldn't. The channel cut off with a sharp hiss. Ethan looked up. Bright lines of red light streaked through the clouds. Orbital cannons charging. He turned back toward Cale. Kid, we have to move. But Cale didn't move. The glow from his body was spreading outward. joining the light in the ground. The hum grew louder, vibrating in Ethan's chest until it hurt. He dropped to one knee, shielding his eyes. Then the snow exploded. A column of light burst from the temple, shooting straight into the sky. The storm clouds split apart as if pushed by invisible hands. For the first time, Ethan saw the true sky of Arendor, black and endless, filled with 1,000 stars. And in the middle of that light, something began to rise. It wasn't a machine nor a ship. It was a form made of crystal and wind, massive and graceful, shaped like a being of pure energy. Its eyes burned with the same blue as Kale's. Ethan's heart pounded. He didn't know if he was seeing a god or a ghost. Kale's small voice echoed across the temple. "She's here." Ethan turned sharply. "Who?" The light being spoke, not with words but with music that filled the air. Each note carried meaning straight into his mind. "I am the voice of Arendor. The singer's call has reached me." Ethan stumbled backward. "You can talk?" "The child has awakened the heart." His mother's song guided him here. He stared at Kyle, realization striking him. Lyra, she knew this would happen. She was chosen to pass the melody, the voice said softly. But her time ended. Now her son carries both her light and her will. Kale looked up at Ethan. "Mama said the song saves, not destroys." Ethan nodded slowly, his throat dry. "Then save us, Kyle. The Dominion is coming." The boy turned to the sky, where red streaks of light grew larger, bombs falling through the clouds. The blue glow around him blazed bright enough to blind. The voice of Arendor lifted its arms and the planet itself responded. Mountains cracked open. The ice field split into rivers of glowing crystal. Energy surged upward like a wave, wrapping the temple in a shield of light. When the first missile hit, it didn't explode. It melted into harmless sparks that vanished in the air. Ethan fell to the ground, eyes wide. "Impossible," the voice echoed again. "This world is alive, human, and it remembers the pain your kind brought." Ethan clenched his fists. "I know. I fought for them once. I killed for them. But not anymore. Not after this." There was a long pause. Then the voice said softly, "Then you are not like the others. The child trusts you. That is enough." The storm above began to swirl again, faster this time. The Dominion fleet hovered in orbit, firing one weapon after another. But none of their attacks broke through the shimmering barrier around the planet. Inside the temple, Kale's body lifted slightly off the ground, his light merging with the blue energy of the world. Ethan ran forward and grabbed his arm, shouting, "Kale, don't leave me!" The child looked at him, smiling faintly. "I'm not leaving. I'm waking her." The floor beneath them shook. The glowing veins across the snow stretched outward, spreading for miles. Ethan felt it, the pulse of a living planet awake after centuries of silence. In that moment, he understood. Lyra's lullaby wasn't a goodbye, it was a key. The song wasn't meant to end life. It was meant to bring it back. The sky blazed with blue fire as the light being spoke one last time. "The awakening has begun. The song of Arendor will reach the stars." The Dominion ships started to fall from orbit, their engines cut off by the energy wave. They tumbled like dying stars into the upper clouds. Ethan held Kale tightly as the temple filled with brilliant light. The world was alive, the war was ending, and the song that had begun in the snow now echoed across every corner of the frozen planet. And as the light surrounded them both, Ethan heard a voice, gentle, familiar, and filled with peace. "Thank you, human," it said. "You kept your promise." He looked up through the light and saw Lyra smiling. Then the storm broke and Arendor finally breathed again. The light over Arendor did not fade, it softened. The sky, once gray and angry, now shimmered with gentle blue clouds that looked alive like slow-moving waves of peace. The snow no longer bit the skin. It glowed faintly, warm to the touch. The planet was breathing again. Ethan Cole stood at the edge of the shattered temple, holding Kale close. Around them, the air still hummed with music. Not loud, not fearful, but calm and beautiful, as if the world itself was singing. Ethan's eyes were wide. Above them, the once mighty Dominion fleet was falling silent. Their red lights blinked out one by one, ships drifting without power. No explosions. No screams, just stillness. He looked down at Kale, who was watching the sky with wonder. The child's glow had softened too, no longer fierce but gentle like moonlight. "You did it," Ethan whispered. "You saved us." Kyle tilted his head. We saved. Ethan smiled weakly. Yeah, we did. A sudden flash caught his eye. In the distance, one of the Dominion ships managed to steady itself, flames spilling from its engines as it descended toward the surface. It crashed miles away, a plume of smoke rising in the horizon. Ethan's helmet beeped. The communicator was still active. Phils, this is Admiral Rourke. The voice was weak, trembling. Ethan hesitated before answering. Rourke, you're still alive. For now, the Admiral rasped. What have you done, Captain? The fleet, our systems are dead. Every weapon, every core, gone. Ethan looked at Kale, then at the glowing snow around them. The planet woke up. It's protecting itself. You fool. You've doomed us all. Rourke coughed. That alien energy will spread. It'll reach Earth. The signal cut off. Ethan stared at the silent comm for a long time. He didn't feel anger. Not anymore. Only sadness. You never understood, he said quietly. This wasn't destruction. It was mercy. Kyle reached for his face, touching his cheek with a small glowing hand. No more war, Ethan. The sound of his name in the child's voice made Ethan's chest tighten. He nodded slowly. No more war. The temple behind them began to shift, its massive walls rearranging like puzzle pieces. Blue light spilled into the air, forming shapes, symbols, then images. For a brief moment, Ethan saw Lyra's face appear within the light. Her voice was soft, carried on the wind. You kept him safe, human. The song is complete. Ethan swallowed hard. I didn't do much. He saved me more than I saved him. You gave him the heart he needed, Lyra said. That was always your part of the melody. Then her image faded, becoming part of the light that rose into the sky. Ethan watched her go until only the glow remained. Hours passed. The sky darkened into night again, but this time it wasn't cold. The stars above were brighter than ever, and from every mountain peak came soft threads of blue light rising upward, joining the sky like rivers feeding the stars. The song of Arendor had begun to travel, to space, to every world that could hear far above. Some of the powerless Dominion ships began to turn slowly, drifting away. Their surviving crews, now weaponless, looked down at the glowing planet below and felt something they had never known before. Peace. Ethan and Kale stood by the edge of a frozen lake. The water had thawed, reflecting the new sky. The boy crouched, touching the surface with his hand. Blue ripples spread out in circles. What now? Ethan asked quietly. Kale looked up at him. Go home. Ethan gave a dry laugh. Home? I don't even know if I have one anymore. Kyle tilted his head, smiling softly. You do now, Ethan frowned. What do you mean? The child pointed toward the stars. The song travels. Humans will listen. Hearts will change. He stepped closer and placed his hand over Ethan's heart. You carry it too. A warm pulse spread through Ethan's chest, and for a moment he heard it. The same lullaby Lyra had sung in the snow. Only now it sounded like it came from inside him. He knelt down and looked the boy in the eyes. You're going to be okay? Kale nodded. Arendor will take care of me. You must take care of Earth. Ethan swallowed hard. I don't know if they'll listen. Kyle's silver eyes shone. They will when they hear the song. The ground trembled softly. A beam of gentle light rose from the lake, wrapping around the boy. Ethan's breath caught. Kyle, wait. The child smiled one last time. Thank you, Ethan. You kept Mama's promise. Then the light carried him upward, merging him with the glow of the sky until he vanished among the stars. Ethan stood alone, the wind calm around him, the air filled with distant melody. He looked up, tears freezing on his cheeks, and whispered, Goodbye, little star. He turned toward the wreck of his old ship, ready to send a final message home. Not a report, not orders, just a song. He recorded Lyra's lullaby, the same tune that had saved 2 worlds, and sent it toward Earth. Weeks later, somewhere on the blue planet far away, a small human child looked out a window and heard a strange melody playing from the sky, soft, beautiful, and warm. Her mother smiled and began to hum along, and far above, in the quiet of space, the song of snow and stars drifted endlessly, reminding every world that even in the coldest silence, there could still be hope.